Okay, everybody. I would like to call the December 3rd, 2025 work session to order. And we're going to be discussing the latest borough election and how it affects our election schedule here. And so Shelley, you gave us quite the written document here, but if you want to go over it, please do.
Thank you, Mayor Nackstead and council members for scheduling this work session so I could bring you up to date on how the Borough Proposition Number 5 affects city elections and how we conduct them. Previously, we have always conducted, well, not always, but in my term working elections within the Kenai Peninsula Borough, we have always done our elections jointly. The benefit to that was to our voters being able to go vote at one location for both their borough and city elections. And it was a convenience, and it was also a cost savings to the city because we got the ballot quantity printing discount that the borough was getting when they ordered it. They used their equipment to program our elections, and it was an overall convenience for everybody within the borough and the city to do this together. I want to make sure that everybody understands the Borough Proposition was a citizens initiative that was brought forward last year. They gathered enough signatures to place the issue on the borough ballot, but that proposition only affected the borough election, and it was approved by the voters, which moved the borough election to align with the state election in November. It did not change the city election. It would require a vote of the people to amend our charter to change our election date because the city of Kenai's election date is incorporated into our charter. So that is why the borough's proposition only moved the city election. It could not have moved the city election. It would take a different mechanism to do that. The options that are before the council now is to leave our election where it is, schedule a special election to move it, wait till the regular election to ask the voters if they want to move it, wait till the regular election in October this year to ask the voters if they want to move it, or just leave it as is and not do anything about it. There are costs involved with that. As you can see, though, in the first part of the memo, the proposition, although it did not affect the city election in the 3 city precincts where city voters voted to move the borough election, that proposition passed by 66.5% of the voters who voted on the issue. So that's information to consider when we look at where we go with our election in the forward. Is there any question about that?
Any questions of Shelley? Seeing none?
Okay.
Go ahead, Savala.
Thank you. Shelley, does option 3 represent a one-time special election and one-time increase to costs to realign us with the borough and realign us with the kind of anticipated costs like we incurred in the 2024 election? Is that?
So option 3 would potentially be a special election would be a one-time expense for this. How the voters choose to vote on this could affect whether our election moves or if we stand on our own date in October as it is.
Thank you.
And so as I started to talk about earlier, our current election date is in our municipal charter. The only way we can change the charter is to take the question to the voters. It's basically the city's constitution, and our voters have the right to amend it. So it would require legislation and funding from the council if that is the option that we wanted to do, is move forward to schedule a special election. And the timing of the election would be so that we could make the changes if the voters approved it to align by the 2026 regular election cycle in the fall.
Councilmember Petty, do you have a question?
Yes. Has there been a cost analysis to see what the special election would cost versus waiting until October to do the election, to go before the voters? If we did have a special election and they chose to change our city charter, then we wouldn't be out the extra expense. I was just wondering Which would be most cost-effective for our city and our citizens?
Councilmember Petty, do you have a copy of the packet?
Yes.
Did I? Okay.
And
Go ahead.
So, thank you. That's a good question for those that haven't seen this. If we do make no changes to our election, the borough's election in 2026 will be in November, and our election would be standing on our own. The current agreement that we have that allows us to share their equipment would not be in effect because they would be programming it at that time and testing it to get it prepared for theirs. So we would stand on our own for that election, and we would have to do our own equipment and our own precinct boards and not share that cost with them at all. And the estimated cost, which I haven't gotten quotes for everything, but the estimated cost for that would be $32,748. The estimated cost for a special election is $22,550. And our regular election, when we conduct it and share expenses with the borough, costs us a little less than $10,000.
Councilmember Casino?
Thank you. Shelley, again, another question is, if we went to a special election, would the election packet material be similarly laid out to explain the differences in this to where it's, I think, easy to understand for folks who would be voting on this?
Thank you for the question. So if we went to a special election, there's several requirements. Our charter requires specific noticing because it's not on a key. I would encourage mailers to all of our voters, letting them know that we have a special election. That could, with council approval, with appropriation, include information about the issue that's on the ballot. I did look at a flyer process, and I estimated with the current number of registered voters, that would be right around $5,400 to do a mailer notifying people of an election and the subject that's on the election date. And that would be, and there's also requirements that if we're making charter amendments, there's publication requirements on how often and how that is published for the public to get the information.
Thanks again.
Councilmember Remy?
I understand that Mat-Su Borough went through this not too long ago and probably had some growing pains. Do you know how if they were faced with similar issue to aligning city elections with borough elections? And if so, do you know what they did that worked and what they did that didn't work?
So they had a voter initiative that changed it, I want to say in 2019, and it didn't, or 2020, so it didn't actually, so there, in 2021, there was no state election. So in 2021, they had their election in November, but it was on their own. So I believe it was 2022 that the first time that they had their election in conjunction with the state with the same polling locations. And there was initially a lot of confusion with the voters. Thankfully, they've gotten that way under control, and they're a great example to go by for as we move forward. We know what they're doing there. So it is, the state and the borough and the city elections are not combined. And there, the city elections are still on their own in the Mat-Su in October. But when you go into the polling locations, there's two very separate, obviously separate, the state election and the borough election. Here, when you come to a polling place for our borough and our city, you almost can't tell that it's two. You stand in one line, you sign two registers, but you get two separate ballots. And I'm not exactly, I haven't seen how they administer their polling locations, but that's definitely, we can lean on the Mat-Su and get information on how they're conducting those in the same polling locations with.
Thank you.
Shelley, could you discuss the expected difference in voter turnout?
Again, the Mat-Su has given us a good example. They're on the elections that they have on odd number years, their voter turnout is around the 9 and 10% voter turnout, just like where we're at. And on their even number years, their elections are in the mid 40s to 45 to 49% voter turnout.
Councilmember Daniel?
Thank you. So walk us through, I guess, the process. Say we decide to do the special election, what does that look like? The time you need to put it together, and and the timeline? I'm just curious. I've never had one done yet.
Thank you, Councilmember Daniel. So there are specifics in our charter and our code. When the legislation is passed by the council calling for the special election, it can't happen in less than 60 days. So there's definitely a timeline, and the timeline that I would propose, if that's the direction council wants to go, is late March, early April. That makes sure we're not doing this during spring break when a lot of people are traveling. If it's early April, a lot of our snowbirds will probably be back, but again, we're going to mail everybody flyers and notice on how to apply for an absentee if they're out of state. So the timeline, and basically the timeline for me to get everything together to you, I wouldn't be able to get it to you guys until mid-January, and that would put us right on that timeline to have an election probably early April.
Would May also be a good month if we needed to push it back a little bit? People are moving around, it's drier, it's lighter.
May would work there, and because the way of our code and our charter is, so if the voters pass the charter, our code amendments, we could potentially introduce the legislation so that the public hearing was after the election, or we could withdraw, because then there's the 30 days prior, after a amendment is passed before it's active. So we're getting close to the candidate filing period if we're falling into June and July. So there's a lot of mechanisms that we need to get a bit of a head start on.
Councilmember Grammy?
Potentially, I mean, and maybe this is a bit of a negative Nancy outlook here, but potentially we could have a special election, which would incur a cost of about $25,000. Voters could say no, right? Which would then put us back to option number one for whatever amount of time moving forward for a cost of just under $33,000.
That is correct, yes.
But if it were passed, our annual, or not annual, I guess each election cost would be closer to the $9,000 mark from the 20, that you noted from the 2024 regular election cost?
Yeah, so, and I just got the invoice for the 2025 election costs, and we're right around $10,000. With all things, costs are increasing, election worker wages are going up. So, but yes, we would, I'm thinking for the foreseeable next 2 to 5 year future, our election cost would stay around 10,000 if we were to move the election to align with the state and borough election.
Can I have one more question then?
Go ahead, turn on your mic.
Sorry, I thought I still had it on, my mistake. My other question then would be, I know you mentioned there's a number of tools in your arsenal that we can use to make people aware of the election and what the, or excuse me, of the, well, I guess of the election and what the issue is, et cetera. Would there be concern about more voter apathy than we're already experiencing? I mean, what are we running, like 10 or 12% of voting? And an issue, if this was the only thing on the ballot as a special election and there were no other issues accompanying it or elections on that ballot, would there be concern that maybe we would experience even more voter apathy than we have in recent years?
There is that potential. On special elections, sometimes the voter turnout is less than normal. I definitely would encourage the council, if we're going to do that, to allow the expenditures to do additional noticing and really inform our voters that there is a special election coming. We now use radio. We are using our social media pages. There's a lot of ways that we can reach out to the public and let them know it's coming.
Okay, that was going to then be my next question, is that I assume you would have some suggestions on what we can do to try to combat that concern.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Daniel.
Thank you. Another follow-up, I just said something earlier. If we did nothing and the borough's machines would be unavailable to us because they'll be busy programming for their election cycle, what, would we have to rent machines somewhere? We can count? How would we handle that?
So the proposal I have here, it has us leasing the machines, and I did get a quote from the provider that the borough is also using.
they would have machines we could use at that cost.
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Gotcha, thank you.
And if we were to hand count,
Then your election worker wages would increase enough to probably cost the same as the equipment programming and leasing.
about the same either way then, each?
It would, the cost would not, it would be a minimal difference. Any additional questions?
Are you do you have some more you wanted to present to us?
I think we just jumped through it, but yeah, I told you that I proposed a mailer flyer. So we would mail every voter that voted absentee by mail over the last 5 years, a letter letting them know, because they're generally our snowbirds, that we are having a special election, and include an absentee ballot, then definitely a postcard mailer with the subject of the special election, letting all of our voters, to every registered voter, letting them know that we're having a special election and the subject of the election on it. And again, yeah, that informing the voters, that's the biggest thing, is making sure that they know if that's the decision the council decides to take, making sure they know that this is on the books and how to be involved and take part in it.
Councilmember Sonart.
Thank you, Mayor Nexted. So I'm trying to recall back to the elections where we had 2 registers, because I know I worked several of them with the double registers. And I just need you to confirm my memory or either correct my memory. When we had the double registers, that was always city and borough.
That is correct.
It was never state.
Correct.
So if we do a special election, if the voters were to pass this, our city election has now moved to November. Am I understanding now that the election workers would be working with 3 different registers?
No.
No.
So there would be 2 separate lines. I'm not sure how the Matsu's doing it, and there's a lot of things to iron out, but there would be a separate precinct board for the state and federal election, and a separate board for the borough and city election. So ultimately, there would be a register. When you go to the city and borough, it would be the same. It would be, you're signing a borough and a city register, and then you'd have to go to another location to sign the state and federal register.
Like a totally different location or just a different room?
It's probably going to be in the same exact location. It's just going to be 2 separate lines.
Gotcha.
Question on that, is that a state, is that statute of some sort that they can't share their workers, or is that something that can be changed?
The local municipal elections are the responsibility of the municipalities. The state has showed no interest in taking over administering our elections, and that's what it would take for them to staff the poll workers and handle all of the things that we have to do to conduct our local elections, yes.
You got another question? Go ahead.
No, I don't have a question. I'm just thinking, I'm thinking out loud here, so I apologize beforehand. Just having dealt with the general public for several years on this, and being the recipient of a lot of impatience, of people waiting in line, I can only imagine the reaction when the voters realize, oh my gosh, I can't go to one place, one line and get everything done. I now have to go over here, even though it's not that big a deal to walk over there and get in the second line. I just wonder how many people realize that that was what they were voting for when they passed Proposition number 5.
I don't know that that's what they realized. I know that the voter fatigue, as Councilmember Grimmy said,
Yeah.
there's several elections. I mean, on even number of years, we have a primary election in August, and then
Right.
a regular election in October, and a general election in November, and people want to make it easier on themselves. I don't know that it would be 2 separate lines. There's potential that we could work this out with the state, where you get in one line, and that line processes you through a city register, a borough register, and a state register. The fear is that somebody runs the wrong ballot, because there's going to be separate places to run your ballots. So I think it's something that until we get there, it's a bigger discussion that we're going to have with the state and the borough on how we administer something like that.
Councilmember Grimmy?
And the reality is the Matsu Borough has experienced greater voter turnout by aligning their dates with the state elections. So while standing in another line may potentially be an inconvenience, a short-term inconvenience, I want to believe that most people are there to vote. And so they're willing to, I mean, they already have done the inconvenience of driving to the polling place and standing in line. I would hope that they would not be too inconvenienced by having to get in a second line. Though, I mean, I can feel myself probably grumbly about it too if the lines were especially long. But the reality is Matsu's results indicate that people are doing that and have been willing to do that.
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
And Shelley, as I recall, the numbers from the city voters in the last election, it was 2-1. They wanted to move the election in November, correct?
In the three city precincts, yes, that initiative, the borough ballot proposition number 5 was approved by 66.5% of our voters.
Pretty decisive. Councilmember Daniel?
I know we can't make decisions right now, but it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, I think we should look at doing a special election to get this on the books, but that's my opinion on what the body feels like to get that stuff forward.
I think we've kind of blurred into council comments, and that's probably just as well, that's kind of how that works. So does anybody have any more questions? We can always ask questions of the clerk.
I do,
That's
sorry.
what I mean.
But
Go ahead.
Mr.
No,
Bloom,
don't
did
be.
you?
Oh, I just wanted to point out the process. I mean, you don't necessarily need consensus at this meeting. I think it's just like any other piece of legislation. Anybody can sponsor a legislation, and then we would have the actual debate and vote at a regular council meeting.
And maybe, I don't know if this is a question for you, Madam Clerk, or you, Mr. Bloom, or both, but in the future, when things such as this arise, so we knew that this was going to be on the ballot for the borough, is it possible to align the votes so that perhaps we could have had something on the city ballot at the same time that said, if borough proposition whatever passes, to move the borough election dates to align with the state, the city would also do that? And I ask that to avoid this entire, I guess, issue moving, if something like this were to arise again, plus the cost that would be incurred with the special election for a future issue.
Because our election date is in our charter, and a charter amendment, and the attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, is decisive, and we have to print exactly what's going to change. I don't think we could put a proposition that if this happens, this is going to happen. We could have, and the timing on the initiative, it's like if the initiative went soon enough, maybe we could have asked our voters if they wanted to move it to, but I don't believe we could place a question that only if this happens, will this happen? I think it's a clear, are we amending our election date or not?
That makes sense. Thank you.
Councilmember Daniel?
Thank you. One other follow-up is, I'm guessing other municipalities in the borough are considering this as well. Have we heard what our fellow, just curious what the others are doing?
So one of our neighboring cities whose election date is not in their charter, it's in their code, have already moved theirs. I do know that another one, it's not in their charter, but their charter has a provision in it that if they move their election date, it can't take place for a year. So they would not be able to change their election date until after the next regular election cycle. And another one, I don't know what they're doing. And there's 6 cities, so there's 3 cities that I'm not sure what they're doing at this point.
Councilmember Casina?
Thank you. Your answer spurred another question, which is if we were to put a proposal out for a change to our process, could that include making it easier to adjust next time that would not require the process we're going through now? say like one of our neighboring cities that was able to quickly enact that change?
That would ultimately be up to the council and what question they want to put in front of the voters.
Okay, thank you.
I suppose it's altogether possible that voters might decide in the end that they don't like it. It all goes back, so, I mean, in a couple of years, and then in which case, yeah, you never know. Any further questions of the clerk? Councilmember.
Promises
Go
it.
ahead.
So we've had some discussion. Are you looking for some guidance here, or what are you looking from us right now? Just to sponsor, bring up legislation later to sponsor, is that what we're looking for?
Actually, yeah, if the council, although you can't make a decision, you can let me know that you'd like to consider legislation towards a special election. That would prompt me to draft it, and then you guys can debate the matter at a meeting when it's introduced.
Well, my opinion is, by the way, we've got somebody from the audience here that will happen after we're done here, but my opinion at the moment is, it's clear that the voters voted 2-1 to move it. It's a matter of when we do it, and it gets pretty clunky if we have our own regular election in October, and then it won't really take effect until the following year. So I would be inclined to, with lots of advertising, like Shelley our clerk has proposed, to do the special election and kind of bite the bullet and get it moving. That's kind of where we're at. We don't have the ability like Soldotna did just to change a code section, which is something we do all the time here, but we can't do that. We have to go to the voters. So, Councilmember Petty.
And I'm thinking that our voters, when they went, did not recognize the nuances of our charter for the city, and did not realize that our city would still be on the same time frame that we are, that the borough would be changing. And an assumption that could have been made was that it was going to take care of everything. And so with that nuance there, but we couldn't put it in preemptively because we had to find out what the initial results were going to be. So so I would be in favor of giving Madam Clerk the go-ahead to move forward with a special election.
Councilmember Gramey?
I tend to agree that special election is the direction that we need to go. I like that the city elections have been separate from others. I think that it helps to reduce the noise from larger elections and allow voters to focus a little bit more on city or borough election issues, and that will go away. But I think that is okay when the trade-off is potentially a larger voter turnout, less voter apathy. It seems to be a fair cost for aligning our elections with the state. And so I too would be in favor of asking Madam Clerk to draft legislation for council to consider at another date.
Any further opinions? Councilmember Casena?
Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm with the majority of the group and in favor of a special election. I think one thing it does is provide some transparency to the challenge that I think we face because of the nuances that people may have not understood. This gives some clarity to that and brings some awareness to it that if we did nothing, people might not know. But if we do something, they will at least have the knowledge that this option is out there and they get to specifically choose. So I think I would be in favor of it as well.
Councilmember Daniel?
Agreed. Well said, Councilmember Casena.
Councilmember Sonart? Yep, I'm just calling on you. You're the last one. If you have an opinion, we can wait. I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's fine. been on the other side of this, so I have a totally different perspective. Just be careful what you ask for. I mean, I'm of a mind that we need to do the special election. We need to move forward because it's just cost prohibitive to try and run $33,000 and upwards on our own year after year. So for that reason alone, we have to move. I mean, move forward to seeing if we can align all this up. And yes, there will be a greater percentage of voters participating when it all lines up. But I'm here to tell you, it's not necessarily exactly, let's see, I'm choosing my words carefully. Yes, there will be a greater percentage of voters participating. I will just leave it at that. I will tell you, I had somebody come in August in the primaries. And when I handed them the ballot, they looked at it, I'm sorry, it wasn't the primaries, it was the local election, I'm thinking. And the presidential race candidates were not on the ballot, of course. And they threw the ballot back at me, like, I'm here to vote for the president. I said, well, I'm sorry, that race is not being voted on today. Well, I drove all the way here. I want to vote for the president. I mean, it took about 3 of us to convince this person to calm down, that there will be a time that they could vote for the president. It just wasn't right at the moment. Okay, so I have said enough. I will just be quiet. I am in agreement with all of you that we need to move forward and we need to align this thing from the stance that I don't want to see a burden of $33,000, $35,000 on the city every year for an individual election. So, okay, I am in agreement.
And I see that we have Councilmember Askin online, and she has her hand up.
Thank you, Mayor Mayor Nagstead, sorry. Shelley, thank you for your succinct information. I didn't have any comments earlier. Everybody pretty much voiced what my questions were. I am in agreement that we need to pursue a special election.
Okay, well, so far it's unanimous. Any further discussion before I turn it over to the public? Anyone?
Mayor Nagstead,
Yeah,
sorry,
go
just
ahead.
if I might, I don't know, Shelley, if you feel like you have sufficient direction to draft legislation. I mean, the specific language of the proposition could vary. There's options, as Councilmember Cassena said, to, completely remove it or just change the date and leave it in the charter. So I don't know, Shelley, if you're comfortable with doing that, or also if the entire council is going to sponsor the legislation, or if you're going to have individual sponsors, or if you would sponsor it yourself. Actually, I don't think you can sponsor yourself.
You're right, I don't think I can. I think it has to be the mayor or the council that sponsors it. And yes, direction on what the question you'd like on there is either just changing the election date, or if you want to propose that the date become part of code and come out of the charter would be helpful in drafting the proper legislation.
I would suggest, if we're going to, first off, that since we all seem to be in agreement that we would all, on something this important, would all sponsor it. And getting back to if it might change again, is the language needs to be in such a way that either it comes out of the charter altogether, and then we put it in code and we can change it, or it has to be worded in such a way that it's kind of an either or it aligns with the borough, perhaps. Since that's what we're really trying to accomplish here. I think, further discussion? Yeah, go ahead.
I'd agree.
Councilmember At.
I'd agree with that.
Pardon me?
I would agree with that plan.
Thank you.
That's clear enough. Excuse me, how will that come back to us to look?
Our charter says that it can be done by ordinance or resolution. Because this is a special election, it's going to also include some appropriations. So it will more than likely come in the form of an ordinance with the appropriations wrapped in it, or 2 ordinances.
Can you just summarize then what you would be specifically including then? Because I just want to make sure I understand. It sounds like there's several, I mean, I understand the appropriations part, but maybe like it sounds like a 2-pronged voter question now is what we're asking. So I want to be clear I understand.
I wanted to look at the options, so a charter, voters like having the decision on how to change things. So if we ask them to remove it from the charter, it could dilute the question for them. So I might be looking at proposing 2 questions to align the date, and then also to move it out of the charter, so that if they want to align it, it doesn't necessarily challenge their ability to change the date by charter amendment.
Thank you. That's kind of what that's what I was driving at. I think that often, if there's too many questions in a question, it is confusing. What am I voting yes to? What am I voting no to? What if I agree to part but not all? How do I vote? And so I think in the interest of clarity and in truly getting what the voters are saying, it doesn't cost us more to have 1 question, or maybe it does, but not substantially more to have 1 question or 2 questions, but it would make the process clearer and easier for voters. And I think for council, with understanding what their expectations are as well.
Councilmember Petty, did you have a question?
I was trying to get clarity on if we were taking it out of the charter or not. That's what I was trying to have an understanding of, on how you were going to write that up.
So ultimately, the questions that go to the voter will be up to you guys. You can amend the ordinance when it comes forward, but the proposal will be, these are really sensitive and then they're not. The proposal will be to have 2 questions. The first question is aligning our state, our election date with the state and the borough election. And the second question would be taking the charter date out of taking the election date out of the charter and allowing it to be adjusted by code and putting it in the municipal code.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, so that gets us down to public comments. Or is there anybody from the general public that would like to address the council at this time? We have Ms. Freeze, are you interested in, do you have an opinion? You know the routine. Yeah. She's a retired, longtime clerk here, so.
I think that, I agree with you. I think that the, doing a special election is the best thing to do to align it. If what you're looking for is to increase voter interest and getting people out voting, that's probably the best thing to do. And as far as all the, how you do it and getting all that worked out and aligned and everything, you got a really good clerk over here that'll take care of that for you.
Any questions? Would you mind standing for any questions? Does anybody have any questions of Ms. Freeze? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Madam Clerk, do we have anybody online?
There's no general public online. Councilmember Askin is there.
Yeah. I could-
Vice Mayor
I can't-
Axton,
I
I'm
can't
sorry,
read it from here.
Askin.
I'll have to bring my distance glasses too. So if there's no further public discussion, we are in adjournment.
We're just